Hey guys, welcome to the episode on this very, very hot and sweaty Kawana night. Now, we're going to jump back to the start soon, but as it stands, the cowl is all painted, everything's ready to go back on, the stickers are on. But we'll now go back and show you how it all came around. I have to warn you, the hair was a lot longer and the camera was a lot worse. So see you soon. So these popped up on Gumtree, a full set, every gauge you could want. They're a really nice style too, for $300. So I jumped at this chance, drove down to Brisbane, got them, and out of interest I just asked him what they're off, and he said they're off an old Johnson Ocean Runner 225. This one, and I said, what's wrong with it? And he said it's got low compression on one of the cylinders, so I'm parting it out. He's already sold the cowling. He was just about to sell the gearbox when I got there, so I said I'll take a look at it, and I noticed sort of down here on this side of this cowling, there was a sort of a browny, sort of creamy mixture. I've seen that before, and that's a sign of a failed head gasket. So he's thought that it's dropped a ring or scored a bore or something, but I was pretty sure it was the head gasket. Now I recorded when I first got it back here, trailing it back here, pulling one of the heads off. I don't know what happened to the file. Deleted itself. So I have already pulled the head off, and I did confirm it was the cylinder that was on low compression. Head gasket's totally gone on that side, and sort of woofing out the side of there every time it would fire. This was the one with low compression. Really, really good. No scoring. You can still see the honing. I think this engine's got about 450 hours on it. And thinking it had low compression, I got the gauges and this motor for $1,000. So I couldn't be happier with that. We will have to find a cowling for this, but that shouldn't be too bad. There's plenty of these in the wrecking yards. So as you can see, I'd say it's reasonably tidy inside. All the head gaskets are showing some signs of weep, and this one was corroded through in a few places, fair bit of salt build-up as well. So it's definitely a good idea to replace these. I'm going to do a full powerhead gasket set. As you can see, the carbs, they usually start leaking. It's a 20-year-old motor in the end. It's probably a bit old, about 22 years, I think. So full powerhead gasket kit. The actual base gasket that sits down between the leg and the powerhead, that is leaking as well. They always seem to leak on these. So I think it'll be really good pulling everything off, giving it a really good freshen up, and then we know we've got a really solid base. And we've got 225 horsepower on a Haines 540F. I'm confident this will be the fastest 540F. So for people seriously looking for an old cheap outboard, I do really recommend these. As I said, I've just never ever had an issue with these. I've probably put about 1,000 hours on different ones. Nonetheless, I'll run you through a few of the common features of them, a few of the things you should replace periodically. So I'll start with this. This is the Vro Pump. So this is it isn't a premix outboard. From the factory, this pump here mixes fuel with the oil, so you don't have to mix it into the tank. It can be handy, but if that pump ever goes, you're never going to know about it, and you're going to ruin your motor. This one has already been blanked off. I don't know if it doesn't work or the owner just doesn't trust it like I do, but I've always just pre-mixed it in the fuel tank. These two here, these are the trim and tilt relays. Easily accessible. Sometimes they go. If your trim and tilt's not working, usually it's them. These things up here, these are your thermostats. There it is there. Replace them, maybe not every year, but often. One other thing with these, you have to run Champion spark plugs. NGKs, there's some technical reason, but they just make them run like crap. I was skeptical at first and just put cheap NGKs in one, and it ran like shit. So get proper Champion. I think they're an iridium spark plug. That's probably about it. To get the heads off, you have to pull this side cowling off. This one's already come off actually. Obviously I've done that yesterday. It's just 3 bolts, one in there, one there, and one over here. Cowling and head is sitting over there. So we're going to start by pulling this side off and looking at taking the whole power head off it. So we're going to start on the right hand head gasket now, right hand head. Before you whack a rattle gun on them, crack every bolt by hand. Just be nice and gentle. Run your lowest chance of shearing off the bolt. Now we can rattle gun it. Definitely a lot of water ingress into these ones, the ones that are sort of sunk a bit deeper. So these are our heads. Off to a machine shop tomorrow, have them probably skim maybe 20 thou off them or something like that. Just make sure they're perfectly flat and have them sonically clean, so we got all that salt out that's going to stop some of the cooling. So now to pull the power head off the rest of the motor. First step to do, undo this. That is the gear selector. The gear selector linkage, rather. So that has to come off so the bottom part can drop away. So now we've got 8 bolts to separate the power head and the leg. Can be a bit hard to get at, but they're around there. Didn't get it on camera, but that's it separated for the first time probably ever, just there. So trying to pull this apart single-handedly and juggle the camera didn't really work that well. So I didn't manage to get a fair bit of it. I realised I dropped half of it off and some wires were still on, so it was a bit of a struggle. But yeah, it's in the 3 bits now, so the midsection, the power head and the gearbox. That's probably all we're going to do on it tonight. So now we're going to start the tear down of the middle section. Split it into all the bits and strip off all the paint. These 4 bolts in here were unbelievably tight. I've got 3 out. On the last one, double hex just keeps jumping over them. So I'm down to single hex. I've sheared off 2 3/8 drives because that's the only ones I've got it in. I've used all my backup toolkits. So this is the last one. Let's see how we go. So this whole motor actually turns out to be Imperial. So that was the magic bullet. 16mm 5/8 spark plug spanner. But they're all out now. So I can now separate this. We are now onto the trim and tilt housing. So I'm going to try and pull the trim and tilt out from the rest of this. But firstly, I'm going to get this big nut that's there. That holds the actual steering, if we want to call that the steering shaft that runs down through there. Holds that all in. Now for the actual tilt mechanism, got to get this big pin out here. Now the circlip was pretty buggered. It's coming out in bits, but I just tapped it out with a little screwdriver. So hopefully we can knock that pin out now. So situation update on this pin. I've got this side loose, it wasn't too bad. This one is just not budging at all. Even drilled a good hole in there, nothing. So it's time for a skinny angle grinder blade right through the middle. So I ended up just having to cut the pin. I used a very thin angle grinder disc which got most of the way, and then just a hacksaw to do the last little bit. Interesting bit is going to be actually seeing how much force it takes to get this little bit out. Even on the bench it took about probably 10 minutes of bashing, drilling an extra hole, a chisel, If that's on the boat, there's no way you're getting it off. You'll just damage your boat. So pin seized in, either leave it or take it off. So to my surprise, this pin at the bottom of the trim and tilt, it's actually coming out pretty easily. Just fill the top with some penetrate and hit it with a punch and it's moved. So here's the cowl we ended up with from the wreckers. It's off a Johnson, but it'll fit. Gonna go start preparing this for the paint job now. Totally different preparation than the alloy on the motor. So we're gonna start by ripping off all these decals. You could do it with an electric heat gun. I don't have one, so I haven't tried it, but this works pretty well. It was like $4, so takes a little while, but there you go. So this sticker residue and the paint proved to be a really hard compound. So to get this all sanded back, I went for a reasonably aggressive disc. I've gone for a 180, which I'm just finishing up now. Didn't take too long. And once that's done, I'll knock it all back with a 320 or a 400. I tried both. I tried a flat sander and an orbital sander. They both did pretty much the same job. I probably prefer the orbital. As for the alloy parts of the motor, I recall I was trying to use paint stripper. This paint was just too tough for that. I just wasn't having any luck. It would have just taken forever. So I just took them to the sandblaster, same one that did the trailer, and they've sandblasted it all off. It was about $250. The surface came up pretty good. So yeah, that's the prep work. Next step's going to be the painting. Just giving the trim motor the usual treatment: wire brush, gurney, and wax and grease remover. So quick run through of the paints that I used for this. Now obviously there were two surfaces we painted. There was sandblasted alloy, and then there was sanded back fiberglass. So for the fiberglass surfaces, the first coat was a Carboline CarboGuard 504. That is an epoxy primer. So it's a 2-pack paint like all the others. It has a base, a hardener, and this was the thinner that I was specified to use by the paint shop. The next layer on the fiberglass surfaces was the black top coat, and that is a Repaint Uracryl 403, sorry. Why it's called acrylic on the tin, I'm not sure when it's a 2-pack paint. Definitely 2-pack paint, base, hardener, thinner, not sure, I'm not a painter. That was the next coat. That was the hardener that was used for that. And this was the thinner, obviously. The very, very top coat was a clear coat, which is pretty much the same paint, just a clear coat, not a coloured paint. There it is, Uracryl 403 gloss base. It also used the same hardener and the same thinner. So that was 3 coats on the fiberglass. Now, it was exactly the same on the alloy, except the very first coat, there was an extra first coat. So before this Carboline undercoat went on, there was an alloy etch primer, also Carboline. That's it there. It is a 2-pack paint as well. It did have a little tin of hardener. I'm not sure where it's gone. I must have thrown it out. It used this thinner as well. So yep, that's the paint system that I used. All up, it's probably about $300 for all the paints. This tin obviously is huge. Didn't use that much. That's because I did the whole undercoat of the boat using that tin. Also, that little tin of black paint, that did the black Ascents. So you do get cover quite a lot of area with a small amount. Now, I'm not actually going to show the application of any of these paints, pretty much because it was exactly the same as when I applied it to the boat, which there's a whole episode of this series on. So if you want to learn how to actually apply, mix, and spray on each one of these coats, watch that episode because it's exactly the same. So that's all the etch primer finally on. It was a total pain in the ass. Probably took 2 or 3 attempts to actually get a finish I was happy with. Had to sand back multiple runs. It's just, I don't know why, it just wasn't a paint that went on very well. I found adding even less thinner to it than what they recommended helped with the runs a bit, but it was still a bit of a pain in the ass. Next up now, we're back to just the undercoat, which is that pink. The pink undercoat we used on the rest of the boat. That'll go on before the top coat. Same process as usual. See it when it's finished. So unlike the boat, which I've just done, I'm going to knock the undercoat on the motor cowl and the rest of the motor back with a 400 grit. The whole thing's going to be black. Imperfections are going to be really easily noticeable, and I want a really good finish on the whole motor. So yep, just a sanding sponge and whole thing back. As usual, after every sand and before every paint, whether it's been 10 minutes or 10 months, prep wash, wax and grease remover, a couple of goes over it. So now preparing the black paint. So that's all the top coat on the motor done. One layer of paint left to go, and that is a clear coat. Again, exactly the same stuff, just Uracryl, and it's just not a top coat, it's just a clear coat. Same process, same as usual. Make sure you give everything a really good wipe down, because this is the coat that really matters. This is the one you're going to see. So that's all the clear coat done, and cured overnight. Looks pretty good. One other thing that arrived we can't do without, that's a nice big sticker for it. There's a company online, I forgot what their name is, but they specialise in vintage outboard cowlings, and this was one of the first ones that popped up. It was about $100, but it looks pretty good. I'd say I'm more nervous doing this than any other part of this whole build. So what I've realised is that these decals, they're not perfectly suited to the cowl. They're fine along here, but as soon as the profile of it changes, they come down and overhang. So I found it's best just to put them on like that and then trim the old bit off, rather than trying to pull them around a corner and get them to sit flat. So start by taping them as close to the end you're going to start on, just with a bit of masking tape. That way you can get the end here right and just slowly do the rest. I'll try and do a time lapse. So just slowly work your way around. I'm using a gym card, it's a bit thicker than a credit card, but that'll do. So that's it done. Just gave it a quick wax. Looks pretty fantastic to me. Looks like it's just come off the factory line. The rest of the motor's in pretty much the same way. And that's probably about it for the aesthetic restoration side of this. So next episode we'll be concentrating on the mechanical works and then reassembling the whole thing. So thanks for watching.